Ted?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that. You know, there's 400 million people out there on Facebook and 200 million blogs out there, but you can't start by trying to reach all of them. You can't say, gosh, how can I get these 400 million people? Because you won't. What you need to do is recognize, you know, what interests you, what kind of brand are you trying to build, and then who are the core people that you want to reach, and focus yourself on that. And you don't even have to take on the whole, you know, area that you're interested in. Focus on a smaller niche, and once you start with a smaller community, then that community, you know, one of the great things about social media is that community will start sharing and working for you. If you're saying interesting things to a group of 50 people and they're interested in what you're doing, they're going to tell their friends about it. And that makes your life a heck of a lot easier than trying to reach the 50 people they know as well. So it's really, you know, start with that focused group that you both, you know, can access and want to access. And then if you win them over, you've made a huge step forward.
I like your point about community. I'd also say that it's important to remember that you're not just building a community around you, you're part of it. So if someone in your community is doing something good, talk them up. And in return, they'll talk you up. And then it's word of mouth advertising, except it's online, and it'll grow and grow and grow. But you can't just put forth your ideas as if you're, you know, in the ivory tower on the hill and expect people to run with it. You have to, there's a give and take in social media, and you have to be willing to do both.
And I think just another important point is always remember that it's social media. You know, you don't want to just broadcast messages, whether they're, you know, you think they're really important or not. You have to remember to, you know, talk to people, reply back to them, and interact with them, because, you know, it is a community, like Lylah said.
So when we're talking about this, a lot of it is about Twitter. How would you differentiate between Twitter and Facebook in terms of getting the message out?
Well, it depends on what your message is, and it depends on your company, and it depends on you. I mean, I use Facebook. The people I'm friends with on Facebook are mostly people I've met with or work with or are friends with in real life. And there's a lot more of my own personal information out on Facebook. On Twitter is a lot more of my readership on Twitter and my community that's based around certain topics, which are the ones that I write about and the ones that I read about. So it depends what you're trying to do. Also, don't forget about LinkedIn. I would suggest you forget about MySpace, because if you're building up your brand, it's more likely to dilute it unless you're banned, in which case it's great because you can put clips out there more easily. But think about what your message is. Think about who you're trying to reach. Remember that LinkedIn is to Facebook like handing someone your business card is to scribbling your name and number on a napkin and handing them that, which I guess makes MySpace the bathroom wall in some ways. But you have to be cognizant not just of your message and your audience, but also how you're presenting yourself as you disseminate that information.
I think another difference too is when you're thinking about the content you're putting out there, that I mean, Facebook and Twitter have a really different shelf life. In that, you know, the way people use Twitter is it's sort of like, you know, it's a river going by, and a lot of times you're really focused on it, but then you look away and a bunch of stuff goes by, and you know, you may stumble across it later on. But you know, I find that you know, for Facebook, what's on your wall or how you're using that and what's getting on other people's walls stays up a little bit longer. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have the same immediate impact, and it's also something where, you know, in Twitter, if you're joining a conversation that's going on a topic, you're probably more likely to run into people that don't know you, so you can expand your reach that way, whereas your Facebook community is still a little more closed, even though Facebook's done a lot to try to Twitterize itself. But I think the shelf life is the biggest thing, is that, you know, Twitter updates have a shorter time period that they're kind of part of the stream for than Facebook.
Keep in mind, you can create a web presence, on Facebook without making it your personal site where you interact with your old friends from high school and college. You can create a fan page and keep some of what you feel needs to be private while still promoting yourself and your brand.
Any more from the panel?
I mean, for me, Twitter is all about my professional personality, and that's kind of the way I think about it. And Facebook really is. I mean, I haven't created a fan page. I'm probably not going to do that. And it's really just. I mean, I do.
Does anyone else?
I do. You have a fan page?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I screwed myself over on Facebook because what happened is I have a fan page, and so I'm on radio 6 days a week, I'm on television all the time, and I also grew up in Michigan, so I want to be able to connect with all of my high school friends. So I started off Facebook thinking, it's going to be awesome, I'm going to be able to see my friends from high school's kids and my friends from college kids, and so I started putting up all this stuff about my family, my kids, home videos, running the marathon, and next thing I know, I realized my producers have friended everybody that went to my personal page instead of the fan page, and I've just opened up the kimono to my personal life to about 5,000 strangers. And once you do it, there's no going back. You can't turn it off, and then, so I've made the decision that there is no distinction. And that if you're really going to build a personal brand, anything that is in the footprint of digital media is there to stay. What you were saying about the river being, going by with Twitter is absolutely right. There's nothing that I hate more than when people put their Twitter feeds onto their Facebook status page, and so now I'm flooded with somebody's dumb marketing messages instead of my friends', kids' photos. But it's more of a LinkedIn and Twitter, but you must not make the mistake of thinking that you're going to say one thing over here and one thing over there, because we all know that Zuckerman or Zuckerberg or whatever his name is has decided that all of our privacy is gone. And so at some point, regardless of what your privacy settings are clicked at, someone might find it. And by the way, in terms of building a brand, it's all about being conscious about what you're putting out anyway. And so you might as well start thinking about it regardless of what sphere that you're in.
Good point, good point. We're gonna, if you have questions on this issue, let's hold off till I think we move forward, and then we'll come back to any of the questions you have. Does that sound right, or do you want to open this up? Okay. I guess the real, but everybody wants to know how social media has impacted your jobs in the media, and has impacted what you're doing now. And I think a lot of that sort of is obvious, and it comes out as we're talking. But we did think of the CNN reporter who was fired after a single tweet. And for those of you who might not be up on this one and might not have gotten the tweet, on July 7, CNN removed its senior editor for Middle Eastern Affairs, Octavia Nasser, from her job after she published a Twitter message saying she respected the Shiite cleric, the Grand Ayatollah Mohammed Hussein Badallah, who died on the previous Sunday. And so a lot of people are asking, should she have been fired after one tweet? Should she have known better? Is this getting through here? I'm losing. And I wanted to bring this out to the panel because it speaks to, if you're going to have a personal brand and if you're going to put out who you are, you have to be cognizant of what you're tweeting at all times and what you're putting out there, whether it is on Twitter or Facebook, wherever. And we do get into some privacy issues. So let's open it up. I know, Lylah, you had some.
I think